All right, hey, I'm Pat Muncie, editor of the Kokomo Perspective, and I'm here with Tom Kelly, retired Kokomo Police Department officer, and now author of a new book named Guard Mount, which is available through the Amazon store currently. Tom, thanks for coming on the show.
Pat, thanks for having me. I'm very excited about this.
I'm happy to have you here. Tom and I, we've been friends for several years. I covered him when he was a part of the drug task force with the Kokomo Police Department and later on as an investigator. I have a lot of respect for this guy. And I tell you, I can't wait to open up this book, Guard Mount. He's based this book, as I understand it, on some real-life events that took place here in the Kokomo area and up at Grissom Air Force Base. So, Tom, tell me a little bit about the story.
It's a fun story, Pat. It's a humorous crime drama set in the 1970s in and around Grissom Air Force Base. And the story is based on a cold case, a fictional, of course, cold case investigation conducted by a female military police investigator, what the Air Force calls the security police, and an Indiana State Police detective. They initiate this investigation when a body is discovered in an old wrecked bomber on the air base. Now, the story's peppered with historical and cultural events of that era, and part of my goal, of course, was to share some of the history of the Air Force Base, of the Peru and Kokomo area, and maybe provide a snapshot of what Air Force life was like in the Strategic Air Command in those post-Vietnam Cold War days.
Now, when you talk about this wreck that they uncover, this mystery out, this wreck is something that's based on a real event that took place at the Grissom Air Force Base. Is that correct?
Yes. Every issue in the novel is based, at least in some respect, on actual events. And the accident that you're talking about occurred in December 1964 during an alert when the bombers that were cocked. At that time, Grissom was a host to the 305th Bomb Wing, which was one of two bases in the country that used the first supersonic bomber, the B-58 Hustler. It was a Mach 2 airplane, a record-breaking airplane, a really remarkable airplane. It was a delta wing plane, difficult to fly. The crews were all hand-picked, select airmen. But there was a lot of them that were lost in accidents. And on this particular morning, 2 weeks before Christmas, the Strategic Air Command staged an alert, and the bombers that were on alert were engaged in what they called a high-speed taxi, where they would actually taxi the aircraft out to takeoff positions and prepared to launch in the event of a nuclear strike. And it was a snowy morning. The runway apparently hadn't been cleared appropriately. The bomber slid into the snow, broke the nose gear off. It burst into flames. And for reasons that I only speculate about in the novel, the navigator bombardier, a captain by the name of Manuel Cervantes, ejected from the airplane and, of course, was killed. Every crewman knew that an ejection at ground level would be fatal because the parachute wouldn't have time to open. And
so it's on this backdrop that you set your mystery.
It is. That's not part of the story, but that is the backdrop. And one of the things that inspired me to write this is that when I was stationed at Grissom, it was a matter of folklore that there was a nuclear-armed bomber buried out off the edge of the runway.
Sure.
Nobody ever confirmed it until they decided to build a prison up there after the turn of the century, and the Air Force revealed publicly that there had in fact been a bomber buried there and the nuclear weapons disposed of.
We've got a picture of you here in your early days with the Air Force there. That's a strapping young man.
Haven't changed a bit, have I?
So you set this murder mystery on this backdrop, and tell me a little about, you've got a police investigator and then a staff sergeant named Bojack. Right?
Yeah, I don't want to complicate the whole, I don't want to give the whole story away,
sure,
but to complicate the investigation that this military police investigator and this state police are conducting. There's a couple of federal agents in there that you're not really sure who they even work for or what their goals are. And then the investigation points to another security policeman who is involved in the preliminary stages of this thing when a series of violent events occur right after the body's discovered in the bomber, and he gets caught up in it. The military police think that he's somehow involved, and in order to really get himself out of trouble, he enlists the aid of some interesting friends and initiates a pretty elaborate con.
Great. I look forward to reading that book. I'll probably do that this week while I'm on vacation. Can you tell me, I know as a writer what it takes to put out a story every week, but this is a novel. This is not just a story. What went through your mind, and what was your process for writing?
The story wrote itself. I'm not a disciplined writer the way Grisham or Tom Clancy or any of those people are, where they can sit down and write a chapter. I wrote when I wanted to write and didn't write when I didn't feel like writing. And consequently, when I had an idea that I wanted to put down, I did, and it came pretty easily. I was fortunate to have lived here in the area for so long, and the characters in the book, I think people like you who've been here for a while may recognize some of them because they're composites of people that we all know.
Sure.
And in researching for the novel, I reached out to some of the people that I served with, a couple of female airmen in particular, because those were interesting times in the military, mid-70s, after Vietnam. I mean, it wasn't until 1976 that women were even admitted to the Air Force Academy. So the role that women played in the military was still a little uncertain. But in talking to those people, I got to know them better, and I think it really helped the characters pop in the story.
Cool. So if I want to get a copy of this book, how do I go about doing that?
Well, there's several ways. Probably the least expensive is just to order it from Amazon. It's available online. I think we're offering an introductory price just over $10. It's available through Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. One of the things that I'm probably most pleased about is that the Grissom Air Museum is offering it for sale in their bookstore after their opening day, April 1st.
And you're going to be there on April 1st for a signing, is that
I'll
correct?
be there April 6th, the following
6th.
Saturday,
Okay.
for a book signing, yes.
All right.
That's the opening day of the museum, and if you haven't been up there, that is quite a resource for this community. They have warbirds representing every event that our Air Force has been involved in from World War II. Well, they've got an F-14 Tomcat from the Navy. And it's interesting that the museum curator, Jim Price, has a philosophy that he wants to show respect for the sacrifice that our airmen made without glorifying war. And that's a difficult mission, but one I think he's doing quite well.
Yeah, if you haven't been up there to the museum, it's a really great place to visit. I like to go once a year and take a look at the planes and the displays they have on the inside. And it sounds like on April 6th there'll be another really good reason to get up there. So I encourage you all to go up to the museum on April 6th and visit with Tom, talk about his book, pick up a copy. If you can't do that, go ahead and go on to Amazon.com, look for Guard Mount or Tom Kelly. I think either one of those searches will bring the book up. And I think he's right, $10 I think is the introductory price, regular $14.95. And eventually you're going to have it as a Kindle or ebook, is that correct?
Hopefully any day now it'll be available.
So you may take a
Kindle.
look at that through the Amazon App Store before too long. Well, Tom Kelly, thanks a lot for coming in today.
Thanks again for
Everyone,
having
I
me.
encourage you to read Guard Mount from Tom Kelly. I'm Pat Muncy for the Kokomo Perspective.